Hello students and welcome to video 2 in chapter 2.7 Industrial and Employee Relations. So last class we looked at where does conflict come from, and then we looked at ways in which employees and employers can try to put pressure on the other side in order to win their dispute. So what we're going to look at in this video is how we can resolve the conflict when the conflict still exists. So the first one we're going to look at is called employee participation and industrial democracy. And this is more of a preventative way of avoiding conflict. So in this situation, the business says, okay, we don't want to have conflict in the future. So how can we try to avoid it? And what this does is it kind of allows employees to participate more in the running of the business. So you have a closer relationship between the employee and the employer. EE is employee, ER is employer. And effectively, we're trying to give employees more of a say in the running of the business. Now, there are various ways that you can achieve this. One is you could put an employee on the board of directors. So when the board of directors have board meetings, then the employee is able to contribute towards the discussions. They can say, well, from the perspective of the employees, this would be the impact on the employees. And it just gives the employees a say in the running of the business. Another way might be share ownership for employees. So in the previous chapter, we talked about how businesses can give employees shares in the company as one of the financial ways of rewarding employees. And what you could say there is that if the employees have shares, then as well as employees, they become owners. So then they're more motivated to actually help in the running of the business. Another one might be to adopt more of a democratic leadership style within the business. So when there are decisions to be taken, then the business can try and survey the employees to see what the employees want. And then that can then shape the way the decisions are made within the business. Now, this would hopefully improve the motivation of employees. The business should also make decisions which are in the interest of employees as well. So hopefully the decisions will be more popular with the employees. And in theory, it should hopefully reduce the likelihood of conflicts in the future. The next method of conflict resolution is a no-strike agreement. So in this situation, imagine that the employee and the employer cannot reach an agreement. Well, what could happen here is that the employer may say, okay, we will agree to your demands if you agree not to strike in the future. Now, a strike, as we talked about before, is very damaging to the business because then they're not able to do any production. Also, the public relations is bad. It looks bad to outsiders, but also for the employee, they don't get paid for that time. So a no-strike agreement is beneficial to all parties in many situations. And so this is possibly a way in which to resolve a conflict. Okay, the employer says, we'll give you what you want, but then you agree not to strike in the future. The problem then is, well, it reduces the employee's power in the future. What about if in 5 years' time, the business maybe has some new owners and they try and do things to take advantage of the employees? Well, because of the no strike agreement, then they can't strike. So they're therefore unable to put pressure on the employer in that situation. However, on the other hand, it will hopefully improve the image of the union or the employees as a whole. Strikes generally look pretty bad to the outsiders. And so therefore that may increase union membership because people may see the union in a better light. So there are some cons here for the employees and the employer, but generally it's a way to resolve conflict. Next is a single union agreement. And what this means is there are some occupations where there are more than one union. An example in the UK, for teachers, there are multiple unions. And for the employer, it can be quite difficult to negotiate with many unions because those unions may want different things. And therefore, to achieve a resolution with all of those unions could be quite problematic because of those different objectives. So one way of solving that problem would be that all of those unions join together. Now, they could join together in one union, or they could work cooperatively during that negotiation so that all of the unions agree on what their demands are. And this means that there's more likely to resolve and reach an agreement. And one other method, or technically it's two actually, is conciliation and arbitration. And this is when we use a third party to help resolve the dispute. Now, this is not party as in we go to a party and have fun. The third party here is somebody or it's an organization who is independent of the people having the dispute. So in this situation, you've got the employee side, you've got the employer side. So what you would do is you would find someone outside of both of those who is independent, who has nothing to do with either side. Now, the first option is conciliation. In this situation, the third party, this other person or group of people, they would encourage communication. So it might be that the third party, the employee, the employer, they all try and sit down, and then the conciliator, the third party, would then try and monitor and try and get them communicating with each other, trying to help them reach a compromise. So their job would purely be trying to help the communication with both sides. Things like, okay, let's listen to your argument first, then we'll listen to your argument. Okay, how can we reach an agreement? Now, there are some people, there are some businesses, this is what they do. They can be paid, and they're professionals in this. They're professionals at trying to facilitate communication between people. The other option is similar, but instead, this time, the third party will listen to both sides, and then the third party will make an agreement. So with conciliation, the third party doesn't decide anything. They're just there to try and help the communication. With arbitration, the third party will make the decision, and that decision is binding. Here, binding means whatever that third party decides, that is what both sides, the employee and the employer, must decide. So by using arbitration, there is a risk because your side might not get an agreement that you want, and you have to live with that agreement. Now, in many situations, we can use the legal system to arbitrate, where somebody involved in the legal system will listen, they'll look at the laws, and then they'll make a decision in that sense. And again, this is one way of solving the conflict. Right, that is that chapter finished. I'll see you next time.